So I believe we are live now on Facebook. Good evening. This is Debbie Lacken from Kids Around Dogs. And this evening we have Toni and Shelbourne. Whoop, whoop. Welcome, Toni. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, brilliant. So Toni, you're basically like the everything of dog of the dog world. You're a behaviorist, you're a trainer, you're a TTouch practitioner, you're a real dog yoga practitioner, you're an author. What else can I say? You're a dog mummy as well, obviously.
It's just ridiculous, you know. I sometimes go, why have I got all these different streams of things I do? But do you know what? There's so many things I love that I just, you know, keep going at. It keeps me busy, it keeps me out of trouble.
That's good. What does it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely to have you here as well, because you've not only obviously you have all these qualifications and great experience, but you have also some unique experience as well. I know that you worked with wolves, right? Where was it? Was it in the UK?
Yeah, so it was an organisation called the UK Wolf Conservation Trust, who are sadly no longer operating, or the wolves are still living out their lives there, but it's not open to the public anymore. Right. And it happened to be at the time just down the road from where I lived, and I actually got involved with it through TTouch, to be honest, because I was sitting at home one day and the phone rang, and someone on the other end of the phone was like, oh, hi, I'm a wolf handler at the UK Wolf Conservation Trust, and I've tried doing some TTouch on some wolves, and I think they like it, and it would be really nice to see what would happen if someone who knows what they're doing did some. And Jerry invited me up for an afternoon to play and look at the wolves and watch them. And I didn't actually realize I was going to meet one like to be able to touch that day, but I did. And I was just hooked. It was just such a phenomenal experience that I went for an afternoon and stayed for 10 years.
You got lost.
I became a handler and then a senior handler, and then I became the education officer for the trust as well. And, you know, actually my writing career started from the Wolf Trust, because that's where my first book came from, which is The Truth About Wolves and Dogs, which is like really old now. I can't believe how old it is.
Don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about the age of the books. But yeah, in fact, you brought quite a few books, and we are going to talk about it. One thing I wanted to ask you about, working with wolves, because you worked with dogs before, and then with wolves. Working with dogs, did that help you when you were working with the wolves? Or?
Yeah, definitely, because it meant I could already read body language, and I knew how to act. Actually, funnily enough, I had to change some things I would automatically do with a dog with the wolves. So the first time I met them, I remember going in and turning my back and trying to make myself small, and Jay was like, no, don't do any of that, that's not, that'll make you look, it's not what wolves like. Right. So I did have to change some of the things that I would normally do, but it did mean that I could I could understand their body language, and I could I could be authoritative without being dominant. I could do all the right things. I could be confident around them, which other new handlers probably weren't so confident, because they weren't used to working with big dogs and what dogs did. So yeah, it did help. But then working with the wolves really helped me take that observational work I did and what I learned from them back to the dog world. So my ability to read dogs' body language and their really subtle micro expressions and that really like low level communication really improved after working with the wolves.
Oh, that's fantastic. I was going to ask you that. So brilliant. Would you ever go back if you were still operating? Would you dip in, or I think was that like a finished chapter of your life, if you like?
I think, I had so many incredible experiences working with wolves, and I am in a very small exclusive club of the very few people in the world who get to work with socialized wolves. Yeah. And I'm not, it's not that I'm completely separate from that work anymore. I still have friends who work in other organizations. I still have wolves I can go and visit and touch and play with and stuff, which is lovely. Like I say, the Wolf Conservation Trust isn't operating anymore. And it was an amazing 10 years. It really was. And there's nothing like working with wolves. They are so incredible. They are these beautiful creatures who are so tolerant of you. All the wolves I worked with were hand reared. And because I had that relationship with them, for some of them that I did actually hand rear myself, you can't just walk into wolves you don't know and have that same relationship, because like it is with dogs, you have to build that relationship with them. So it's probably not an opportunity I'd have again, but obviously I really miss it. Sitting in a wolf enclosure in the middle of the night with wolves howling around you or sleeping about you, hand rearing cubs, helping older wolves kind of like transition into obviously having to be with them to the end of their life, and seeing them at all stages is just amazing.
Gosh, yeah. I'm so jealous. But I think it's one of those things that you think, you know what, no regrets. I've done something so amazing that. Wow. So let's talk about your books. Obviously, you wrote a lot of books, but you were so kind you to allow us, to the cat-approved trainers, to have access to one in particular. It's called Help, My Dog is Destroying the Garden. And you co-wrote that with the lovely Karen Bush, that can be with us this evening, but she's very much thought of. She's really, really wonderful and so kind as well. So let me ask you first, what led you to write that book? Did you have a personal experience with a digging dog, or?
So obviously both Karen and I have owned dogs. Karen is the real gardener, actually. So in all of our books, usually one of us kind of leads the project a little bit more. And this was more Karen's project because she's got a real passion for gardening. She's the one who knows all about plants. And then I was the one who kind of came in and put all the training bits in place, and of what, to help dogs be calmer in the garden, or, not step on the plants, that kind of thing. So, we always write stuff together, even if it's one that I've led most on. Karen's going to be involved, editing and formatting and doing all the really like boring jobs. But at the time, we had just rescued a lurcher from Battersea who was very young and very bouncy and very energetic, and we had a very small garden that very quickly looked like a mud bath.
Oh my God.
So actually, some of the pictures in the book, I had to allow him to do something naughty so that we could get good pictures, and then obviously train him to do something much better that he didn't do the bad stuff. So yeah, there were a couple of times I was like, oh, I'm just gonna have to let you do that naughty thing, mate, because I really need that picture.
I need that picture. Nice excuse. You didn't mind, I'm sure. So in fact, the book is great that you mentioned it. The book has really great training tips and also instructions on how to train, from like literally step one to the end, and even thinking how to make it harder, and literally escalating the difficulty and stuff. So it's brilliant, really great advice there. One thing that I personally found is the diluting the wee. So when a dog does a wee, have a watering can next to you and just go to town with the water there so that your grass can be saved. It's such a clever little tip there.
Yeah, because it's just the nitrogen in the wee, it's so concentrated that it's just too much for that area. And of course, you notice it more with girls because they squat. Boys, they'll pee up something, so you might not get that brown mark in the middle of the lawn. And there's loads of products out there that say, that they're really good. Why do you want to add those things to your dog that aren't natural for them? It might change their pH level in their urine, and that can't be healthy for them. So yeah, I mean, you just have to dilute it. Just go around after them, shove a bit of water on it, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's those little things you think, oh, it's like, how didn't I think of that? And you go, oh, makes complete sense there. So that's one little tip from the book. I thought, oh, brilliant. And then amongst other brilliant things in the book, you talk about a Richmond garden, and there is also, I believe, a few photos from ideas that you took there. Is there any plant in particular? I know that Karen is more the gardener in all this, but perhaps you remember, or you could mention some plants that you would suggest it could particularly be useful there?
Yeah, and obviously you have to be really careful about plants in the garden because so many of them are toxic to dogs. But it's really like the herbs are really interested. And I actually, we did a lot of planting in the wolf enclosures, for example. So although some herbs shouldn't be given to dogs long term, there are a few that are healthy for them to munch on at any time, but they might pick them at different times. So the old ones, you know, the Romans always said if you had thyme, sage, and rosemary in your garden, you know, you could fix all ills. So, and they are, you know, usually pretty safe for dogs. Obviously, you need to check with your vet, and you need to check that they're okay with your dog if your dog's got medication or whatever. But generally speaking, herbs like that are safe for them to just graze on, you know, or even just planting, you know, the type of grass they like to munch on. Because people often think that grass munching is bad, but you know, it's not. It's normal for dogs, and sometimes they just do it because they like those natural sugars, and they might eat them more, you know, some sections of the year than others. So as long as it's safe, and you know, it might be something that just smells nice, like lavender bushes, which is going to obviously encourage lovely bees and stuff, but also it's just nice and a calm smell. It's going to help calm them down as well. So do your research, definitely, but there are some great stuff that you can plant that's really easy. And if you don't mind them munching them, like I used to have an old cat who would just love sage, you know, she would just munch on it all the time. But she had a stomach issue, and it actually used to really help her. So she's self-medicating.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, you can always get in contact with a zoopharmacognosy practitioner and say, you know, which herbs does my dog really want and need, and then maybe you could plant those in your garden. And you can put them in pots, you know, in the wolf enclosure, so they didn't nick the whole plant. We had a planter, we put a metal mesh over the top, and it would grow through, so they could nibble the bits off the top without nicking the whole plant.
Ah, that's very clever.
Yeah.
You see, I am no gardener. Like all my friends know, my garden, if it weren't for my husband, it'd be completely dead. It'd be nothing, literally. The bees would be like, what are you doing to us? So my husband takes care of this, but my daughter is also often interested. So sometimes it's because of her as well that I do some gardening, because she's like, oh, mommy, let's plant this. So that's another reason why this book was so good to me, because it's something that the children can get involved with, and they think, oh, I'm doing this for my dog as well as making the garden look prettier and doing a healthy
dogs love to eat some of the soft fruits that we grow, and kids love to, like, so they can both graze on them together when they've come into, you know, into flower and into fruit. So strawberries and raspberries and blackberries, things like that. You know, everyone likes munching those. I remember as a kid, it'd be one for me, one for the bowl, one for the dog, you know.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, we have strawberries. Wilco has a few of them sometimes. Winnie doesn't seem that interested, but we eat them as well, and it's so brilliant. And it's so great as well for the kids to go, oh my gosh, I planted this. You know, it's not just I bought it from the shop. This is, you know, I did all this. So it's very
and how many kids love interacting with their dogs? Then they can go out and graze together, or, you know, do a bit of gardening together. I mean, what a great activity.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of being in front of the screens all the time. It's just Also, in the books you talk about different things, TTouch being one of them, which I love a lot, and the confidence course, which is brilliant as well. But one of the things you talked about in the book, and I really want to squeeze you on this, is the real dog yoga, because you're one of the really few practitioners in the country to be a real dog yoga. In fact, Joe Rossi doesn't even teach at the moment to anyone outside of Spain, I believe, on this. So we need you.
Yeah, I think Joe's got plans for the yoga to kind of, you know, get some more practitioners, but I'll leave her to explain that. Yeah, it's a really fun thing to do in the garden, because it's such a calming thing to do. But if your dog just goes out and thinks the garden's for charging around and like ripping up the plants and barking at the dog next door, you want to encourage calm behaviours. And you can do that with, you know, doing some TTouch, doing some of the TTouch groundwork, doing some of the yoga as well. So the yoga is all about postures, actions and expressions. We want to teach the dogs to maybe hold a posture, and that posture might be one that encourages them to be calmer, or one that maybe stretches them. So it's good for older dogs, or dogs who are maybe athletes that need to kind of stretch their muscles out after working. But it's also really good for just de-arousing, really excitable dogs. It's really good for older dogs who maybe can't move around so much. So we can teach them to hold these postures that, will really just help them settle. And there's also expressions we can teach, and there's also other actions. So things like, walking very calmly and slowly around a bucket instead of running around really fast. All these things are going to help build deep muscle, to stretch muscles out, to help them be able to be more body aware. So there's so many benefits from it, but actually it's such a lot of fun to do with your dogs. They love it, you love it, and you're always kind of perfecting what you're, the posture that you're training, or the expression that you're doing. So I think it's not only really beneficial, but it's a lot of fun, and it's something that they can do in the garden, which means they're not so distracted and rushing off and doing the wrong sort of activities.
And do you reckon that is something that children could also do with the dog?
Well, children are just great at handling dogs, right? Sometimes better than us adults.
Indeed.
As long as they've got that awareness of, a bit of clicker training or a bit of marker word training, and their timing's quite good. And even if their timing's not great, dogs are really forgiving, aren't they? And they do it for us. So get a mat or a towel, teach the dogs to come and lie or sit or stand on it calmly. They could teach the dog maybe to do a side rest. So, most dogs, when they're starting to relax, instead of being in a sphinx position, they'll rest on one hip. That's one of the postures, and that's really easy to train, because we just need to move our hand to follow a treat. Well, children can do that, definitely. So, there's so many things that they can teach the dogs to do in the real dog yoga. I think that would be a lovely activity for them to do together.
Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that, because again, as you know, we work with children a lot, so we want the kids to be as involved as possible with dogs, but in a positive and calming way as well. And again, there are a few moves in the book that people can learn from. So brilliant. But as you mentioned at the beginning, this is not your only book. There is quite a few. And I will post your link again afterwards, but it's tonishelbourne.co.uk. Is there another one as well that you would recommend from you? Because you have another website as well, I think, can you?
So the skinny dog books, which Karen and I write together, we call them skinny dog books because we both own skinny dogs, as in lurchers and greyhounds and stuff. And also the books are quite thin because it's only one subject in each book. So it's everything you need to know about, the garden, everything you need to know about helping your dog with firework fears, or going to the vet, or traveling in the car, whatever it is. So it was obvious for us to call it Skinny Dog Books, our sort of self-publishing, house. So the website is skinnydogs.jimdo.com. So it's you can look on there, but you can find all the books on Amazon as well. Just put my name or Karen's name in, and they'll all come up.
Brilliant. And again, I'll post all the links again. Say it again.
That's worldwide as well, so it doesn't matter what country you're in. You can find them on Amazon,
and you can also download them on the Kindle. So
and if you've got Kindle Unlimited, they're free, some of them.
There you go. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Then one of the books that I really love, and this is written just by you, but is this one on Help My Dog Has Canine Compulsive Disorder, and I have used this book so much, so thank you so much for writing it. Really helpful. And in fact, I think when I first got it, I think I contacted you the first time was because of an issue that I had, and I got your book, and it's been a godsend. So thank you very much for writing this. And also, I must say, there aren't that many books on this topic, and I feel as well not enough is still known on this topic. So really fantastic book there. Is there a book that you particularly like? It doesn't have to be in the dog world, but do you have a favorite book that you love?
I love all books. I am such a reader. If you ask my husband, he'll go, I've always got my nose in a book. And I probably read 4 or 5 books a month. So
wow.
trying to kind of pinpoint it down to one is really hard, because sometimes it's just depending on what I'm reading at the time.
Right,
And what mood I'm in. From my childhood, you know, obviously, my mother had a book called The Water Babies. It's a really old book, and I've inherited this book, and it's such a great story that, you know, if I had to pinpoint it to one, it would probably be The Water Baby. And it's probably really not very PC anymore and all of that, but you know, it reminds me of my childhood.
Oh, that's
Winnie
so
the
sweet.
Pooh and things like that, Christopher Robin, things like that are always pretty good. But yeah, it'll change day by day depending on what I'm reading.
Fair enough. Can I ask you what you're reading at the moment?
So I'm just read an amazing book called The Tattooist of Auschwitz. So, you know,
I've heard of it.
yeah, it's an absolutely incredible book. And of course, it's based on a true life, although it's not everything true in it. It's based from the memories of the person who was actually made to tattoo his fellow Jews and gypsies that went into the concentration camps. And it's such a powerful book. It's amazing. So I'd recommend anyone read that one.
Oh, that's good. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've heard of it. I do get very upset in reading this kind of book. So it's one of, as you said, you kind of have to be in the right state of mind for certain books, and other times you feel different about. So yeah, but thank you for this. Any other future projects for you? What are you working on? What's in the future for you?
So Karen and I, we write for Your Dog magazine quite regularly together, and sometimes separately as well. So we've got loads more articles coming out in Your Dog this year. And the next book, we've got 2 on the go. We've got one that's been on the go for ages, and we just don't seem to be able to finish it because we kept getting excited about other projects. So one about peas and poos, so dogs, you know, toileting in the house and stuff.
Nice.
Really need to finish that one. But the one I'm really excited about, and one that we really need to start working on to get out this year, is Help My Dog Won't Sleep.
Oh, and I actually watched one of your webinar on dog sleeping. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think it's going to be out before the end of 2021?
I don't think so, because we're just so busy. So we really need to I need to stop, you know, taking on other projects and just knuckle down and write it, because every year in the winter, or every year as it gets light, I get so many clients going, oh, my dog won't sleep. And I'm like, well, yeah, there's reasons for that, you know, or teenage dogs as they're growing up, or puppies, obviously, when they first come home. So many what you find is the books that are most popular are the ones where it affects people's lives. So dogs not sleeping, or not being able to travel in the car, you know, puking up all over your car, you know, for stuff that people can't live with. It's difficult for them. They're the books that probably sell the most. Like our travel book, Help My Dog Doesn't Travel Well in the Car, is year on year our biggest seller. But yet fireworks books,
every
regularly, you know, weirdly is probably the least of one that's bought. It's bizarre.
You know, I think that with the firework thing is probably because there is quite a lot out there, and being one of those things. But the car issue, you know, the fact that dogs don't travel well in car, that's a big one as well, really big, and it's a daily thing. With fireworks, it's probably just like, you know, sometimes of the year, and people just. But with the car, you need it every day, don't you? Every day, possibly more than once a day. And sleeping, gosh, one night you'll endure it, 2 nights, 3 nights, you're like, I can't deal with this.
It's like having a new baby again, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So you have to let me know when the book is out, and you will make Karen come online as well.
Oh, you'll never get Karen online.
She's not gonna. No. We're gonna put just a picture of her. Just a little photo there. Oh.
Yeah, we just did an article for Your Dog magazine on Flirt's poll, and I actually got her to do that with her dog, and I took pictures of her. I didn't think she would let me do it, but she did. So there are actually pictures of Karen out there now.
we need to print and frame it.
Yeah.
Frame it, that's it. Oh, so is it on this month of your dog magazine?
I think it was last month. I lose track. There's so many of us, there's so many articles out there. It could be this month, but I think it was last month.
Okay, we might be able to still get it though. So, Toni, thank you so much for this evening, for being on, for being so great and answering all these questions. And again, for writing such awesome and really helpful books, and for all the webinars that I've been watching and that you often have out, and all the work that you do for dogs and humans. Thank you so much. Really appreciate
You're welcome.
it.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you. So have a lovely evening, Toni and everyone. I know that there are a few people watching there, especially Lindsay wrote there as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.